Let's make sure our tests still pass. That all looks good. Oh, we'll need to apply our Alembic migration. So let's do that. Okay, so that cleanly applied. So I think we're ready to kick off the pipeline. We'll run it with the verbose flag as usual. Okay, it finished. This doesn't look quite right though, right? So if you look down here under synthesis step, it returned 0 candidates, which should never happen. There should always be 3 candidates. And then, of course, as a result, the deep dive step didn't have any candidates to expand. So we'll need to figure out what's going on here. And I think we can enlist Claude to help us. So let's just copy all of this. Okay, so we'll go to Claude. Let's start a new chat, actually. We don't need this previous context. So I'm just going to say, getting 0 candidates from the synthesis step, please investigate. And then we'll paste the log, see what Claude figures out. Okay, it's asking to run this SQL query. So we'll allow that. Okay, and another one. So I like how it's proactive about figuring out how to best debug these problems, looking at the database as needed. Now it's writing a little Python script to help debug things, doing some calculations around date cutoffs and so on. Okay. The query returns data fine. Let me look at how the step is executed. The issue might be in the pipeline runner or the step execution logic. Okay. And then maybe we can take a quick look at AI Studio here, see if we find anything interesting in the logs. So we do see the query here, generate 3 startup candidates, right? That's from our synthesis step. There's our system prompt. And then down here, we have the input. So we're passing in all of the business signals. A lot of stuff in here in the input. Wow. Okay. Model-generated function calls. So that's what we should be seeing. That's how it returns the data. Don't see any obvious issues here. So there we see it's returning an empty list of candidates. But it doesn't really help us figure out why. Okay, Claude is still working. Okay, another SQL query. Checking some counts. Another one. Okay, so it finished. It says the root cause was the synthesis step's load inputs was sending all 1679 insights from the last 3 days to the AI model in a single prompt, 2.3 million characters or 572K tokens. The model was overwhelmed and returned 0 candidates instead of 3. Okay, that seems plausible. As a fix, added a limit parameter to get insights since and capped the synthesis step at 75 most recent insights ordered by created at descending. This keeps the prompt manageable while still drawing from a rolling window of recent insights across multiple runs. So that doesn't look great, actually. I think 75 is going to be way too limited, right? The whole point of this pipeline is that we can feed in a whole bunch of insights from all of these news articles from the past day. So 75 insights is not gonna cut it here. So I think I have a hunch we can actually poke around a little bit more and look at some alternative improvements. So here was the system prompt that we used in the extraction step. And it does say to skip signals that are purely informational. When in doubt, skip it. However, it's still asking for a lot of data to be returned, right? So it's asking for each signal to have a short headline, a detailed description, and a signal type. I think that detailed description is probably one of the problems here, because that's going to lead to a whole lot of data that we're passing into the synthesis step here. So let's look at the article insights again in the database. So here we have one headline, AI for commercial fleet efficiency and profit growth. That's fine. Description, Ford Pro AI's ability to monitor over 1 billion daily data points from commercial vehicles and translate them into blah, blah, blah. So you kind of see right there, that's actually a very verbose description, right? It's a lot of text. And then we have another one below. So I definitely think that this is a big part of the problem, right? These descriptions are just way too verbose. And there's also a lot of them. So another short-term improvement might be to maybe temporarily limit the window to just 2 days instead of 4 days. So that could be something to play with as well. And then we can always revisit that in the future. Okay, so here I added a Claude Code prompt with some suggestions for improvements. So I'm going to say 75 is way too restrictive. It's important to feed a representative set of all business insights and market facts from the recent days into the model so that it can do the right level of clustering and generate compelling startup ideas. Right? So I think it's always important to be explicit about why we're asking for a particular change. That helps Claude make the right trade-offs. So then as suggestions, I provide one cap at 1,000 insights. I think that's a much more reasonable cap than 75. Then 2, for now, reduce the rolling window to 2 days, i.e. starting at midnight yesterday. And again, we can hopefully come back to this later, but I think for now that should be a reasonable workaround. And 3, the business insights and market facts returned by the extraction step are way too verbose. Please update the system prompt to ensure the insights are much more terse. I think that's the real fix here. So I'm suspecting that that will get things working well. Okay, it's running some database queries. I see. So it wants to sample insights to see verbosity. Yeah, I think that's smart. Okay, it agrees. The descriptions are very verbose, multi-sentence explanations where a single concise line would suffice. Let me make all 3 changes. Thank you, Claude. Nice to be able to see the diffs right here in line. It's updating Claude.md as well to reflect the rolling window change. Okay, it's done. All tests pass. And then here's a summary. So looks like it capped the insights at 1,000. That was already a constant, so that was a simple change. Let's look at the change to the extraction system prompt here. Okay, so it added some guidance around word limits, right? So for example, each signal needs a short headline, max 10 words, 1 sentence description, max 25 words, and a signal type. Be extremely concise, capture the core insight, not the background. Yeah, I think that's good guidance. That's really what we want. We don't need all the context that was in the original news article. And similar for the market facts. So we have a 15-word limit for the stat itself, and also a 15-word limit for the context. And it also reiterates that returning 0 signals or 0 facts for an article is totally fine when nothing relevant is present. Aim for quality over quantity. Yeah, I think this is really good guidance. Look at the Claude change real quick. Okay, so it has the new the 2-day rolling window and the 1,000 insights cap. think one thing that might be nice is to capture a to-do so we don't forget to come back later to revisit the rolling window. And we could just add this ourselves, but I'm just going to ask Claude to do that. All right, so please add a to-do to Claude.md to revisit the cap and the rolling window for the synthesis step. If at all possible, I would like to revert back to a 4-day window in the future after we've validated that the new Terser article insights work as expected. So let's have it add that. Perfect. And I find that Claude.md is a pretty convenient spot to keep track of to-dos like this. Of course, you could also have a separate to-do.md file or whatever you prefer.